Okay, so hold on a second here. I gotta put my headphones in. Okay, hopefully y'all can hear me. Hey guys, so welcome. Again, this is our third stream now. Give me a second here. I'm gonna use, actually for this talk, the astrology deck cards that I like to use for timing because it gives me better like insight into actual planetary alignments. So hang on here. Actually, we need to talk about that too. Hold up. No. Okay, guys. Here we go. Okay. Saturn in Capricorn. I'm not really sure how long the live stream is going to go for today. If you guys start submitting questions or you want readings done, you can go ahead and submit a question at the link that I have provided in chat. And also you can book a reading there too. I'm going to be doing readings, even though like I set the hour for live 2 to 4 and then 6 to 8. It's just because I need a break to eat. But also, even if I go live and then I only do this for 30 minutes, I'll still be available for tarot readings on the, not on live stream, but like if you order one, I'll still be available. So you can submit your questions, you can order a reading with me, and I can do them from there. So let's talk about, remember how I told you I'm going to talk about Pluto and Saturn? Okay. So I really want to cover Saturn first before I do Pluto, because if you can already understand what one ruler does and then how it engages with the other, you're really going to understand what's going on with the retrogrades of Pluto retrograde and, excuse me, Saturn in Capricorn. Sorry, I'm like, I don't know why of all times now my throat has to be all weird, and I have nothing to drink. I'm like, oh, I did. Okay. Oh, and also let's talk about, let me get the card for Sag, because the moon will be going into Sagittarius. So hang on a second, guys. Here we go. Okay. So the moon is looking at Sagittarius, and you know what? Let me show you, Jupiter's there too. Okay. So trying to make enough room on here so you guys can see what I'm looking at, because how I lay these cards out, I lay them out by like, especially the astrology ones, based on like planetary positions. So, and the signs, like how they're going, what they're going into, what they're looking towards, all of those kind of things. And Pluto is there too. Okay. So, alrighty. Where was I? Okay. So, Saturn in Capricorn has been going on for almost, it'll be 2 years this December. Technically, it's 2.5. So the way Saturn works, and I'm very well apt in this because I had 2 Saturnian returns because I am a cusp sign. So the way Saturn works is Saturn works like this. Before he even looks at your sign, your sun sign, and or your natal sign, depending on where he is. Like I had him, technically I had him for 9 years. I had him in my, hold on, I have to think. Actually, maybe I've had him in my life for a little bit longer than that, because he was in my Jupiter, he was in my Venus, he was in both my suns, Mercury, and he's now in my North Node. So like I've had Saturn really like heavy influences from like when I was a teenager, pre-teenager to adult. And so, excuse me. And so basically like I know Saturn very well. And he's great and all, but he can be a really great guy when he's not wreaking havoc in your life. And this is the thing. Saturn goes through just about every house. He goes through every one of us. But to have him pretty much be in having major influences in my life from teenager to adult, young adult to adult, it's like this is the first real time where even though he's in my North Node, I feel the pressure is off of me from him being like so focused on me in my chart. And see, this is where the astrological chart plays a heavy role. So getting back to like how Saturn works. So this is pretty much Saturn, right? And right now he's in Capricorn, right? Okay. So whenever I put the cards like this means that it's in that sign, right? Above the actual sign. But before he looked into, he always, and I love how they have him always looking at the sign that he's about to transit into when he's done. So basically, when he was moving out of Sagittarius, it looked like this. Okay. He started looking at Capricorn right after the Sagittarian full moon 2 years ago. And when that happened, Saturn, the last 6 months that he is in the sign he's dipping out of, for example, Sagittarian, just hear me out here. He will basically leave you with a good setup, decent setup, and or rewards. It also depends on several factors. Where you are at that time in your life physically. And it also depends, again, I'm talking about sun sign placement, because sun sign placement to me, Saturn is really hard when he's in a sun sign versus the natal Saturn return. When I was born, I had a natal Saturn return in Aquarius. I have already experienced Big Daddy Saturn enough in my life that when he comes for my Saturn return, I'm prepared to let everything go. My karma slate has been cleaned. It's done. Like these next 2 years, when he goes into Aquarius, they're going to be nothing for me. Not because I'm being cocky, but because I've done the work, because I evolved. That's what he's supposed to make you do. He has a job, okay? And so his job in the zodiac is very much as the ruler of both Capricorn and Aquarius, both, is to say, okay, so I'm the guy who can make the 3D happen, but I'm also the guy that is kind of cold and harsh, Aquarian, a little bit Aquarian, but I have this water here that, the Aquarians typically have in their jug. Where is my Aquarian card? Here it is. Okay. So what I really like about Saturn is he does give rewards, like and this is before, really I should say after he leaves. Once he leaves. So like I said, he's dipping out of Capricorn and he's moving into Aquarius, and he's already starting to look at Aquarius. Like, I'm just going to show you on the table because I don't want to keep picking these up. So I'm going to flip it like this so y'all can see. But basically, he is doing this right now. Okay. So do you see how that looks? Can't tell if y'all can see. Okay, there we go. So basically, like I said, there he is already looking at Aquarius. Aquarians won't really start to feel the effects of Saturn going into Aquarius until after their full moon. He always, whenever he's leaving a sign, he doesn't really start to make his presence known. He does it very early. He does about 6 months out before he actually goes into the sign like this. Okay. So Saturn in Capricorn is very powerful, and Saturn in Aquarius will also be very powerful, because at the time that he goes into Aquarius, it's going to be the age of Aquarius. Okay. Like the one age that everybody's always talked about since, like, I think the 70s, the age of Aquarius. Okay. Everybody is finally upon us in next year. And that's why it's a big deal. It's not only just about the Saturn return, it's about the age of Aquarius. This is about purifying those first 2 years, the age of Aquarius, starting the age of Aquarius off right. So now that I've kind of explained how he works, because what's going to happen is those first 2 years with the age of Aquarius are essentially going to be purified for what hasn't been cleared up in the age of Capricorn. So that being said, I want you guys to look at this. And also, there are other planetary retrogrades and alignments that I'm going to be talking about in the next several months leading up to the age in Aquarius that are really going to explain why there has been so much shifting this year and why it's been hitting us really hard as a species, and pretty much where it's all coming from, and the signs that they're in, why they're so vitally important. So this is going to be like a part of an actual series, but I did want to go ahead and just start talking about this now. When Saturn left Capricorn, actually, no. When Saturn left Sag, yeah, let's do that. When Saturn left Sagittarius, he was leaving the sign of truth. And if I remember on Tuesday, we talked about Saturnian energy being the truth bringer, what happens during a waning moon. That feeling, you take that feeling and you go with Saturn and you amplify that to about 100. And that truth feeling, the undeniable truth, that's what Saturn does. But he doesn't just do that. Saturn on his own is a planet of father time, okay? He's father time. He's the guy that controls time. He controls movement in time. He controls, I would even say, the 3D plane of existence. In our everyday lives, this would be definitely business, money, health, for sure. Like Virgo is a house of health, but he has to do with how your health affects your job. And this is the thing about Saturn in Capricorn, especially. He really brings that out in everybody. But whenever he's in a certain sun sign, that I notice that sun sign's health, and I'm not a doctor, I'm just saying, like, I notice their health typically starts to waver first before the mentality starts to break within them. And so this is very important too, because Saturn doesn't just break you down mentally. He takes his time. He's Cronus, right? He's Cronus, and Cronus is always afraid of having his reign usurped by his son, Jupiter. You have a Titan, and then you have the sun, the god. Two very powerful beings. One primordial, I would say, a little bit past that, actually, because, his mother was more primordial, Gaia. But then you have Jupiter being the actual product of him. And this is where his father, this is where I'm like, I'm keep pulling all my cards for the actual astrology, like the planets today. This is so weird. I had not planned on this, but hey, like I said last time, we're just winging it. This is actually the primordial father figure of the zodiac and all of the Greek gods, and he's the grandfather, kind of, because here you have grandfather, father, grandson. And if we really want to be inclusive, we can actually do grandsons. Okay. So I'm just making this known because I want y'all to understand what I'm talking about. Because these two players make up and rule Aquarius. Okay. And so Aquarius is one of those thinkers that you have to understand Capricorn before you understand Aquarius. And so this is why I'm kind of talking a little bit about both, because, and it goes back to the parentage of who is the parent and who, who's father time here. See, and this is the thing. You would think he would actually be the father of Saturn, but he's not. See, he's grandfather time. He's the one who Saturn essentially ages us. And he ages us mentally. That's why he's so tough. That's why he's one of the rulers of Capricorn, because in order to be successful as a Capricorn or to use Capricorn successfully, you have to learn how to rein in your material desires, but also be practical. Capricorn is a sign of practicality. I have known plenty of Capricorns who can do it all. And you're like, how are they doing this? Like, seriously, how are they? I always give this example. I had a friend who was a Capricorn who she was not only a mom, she was a wife. She wasn't just a wife, she was a TA at a college. And then she wasn't just a TA at a college, she was a grad student. And when she wasn't doing that or being that role, she was cooking, taking care of the bills. I mean, and not including all of the groups she was a part of with her job and school and friends. And then outside of those things, like she had domesticity just about like outside of the house. She had it everywhere. She had it everywhere. She made everything that she ever encountered in her life a home for her and her family. And if it's one thing that I admire about Capricorns is how they do it, because they go through the practical. They know how to handle the practicality of things. They see in the 3D world how the 3D world really is. And that's why most Capricorns are really good in business and or ventures with business or jobs in business, because it is what they reign over. You know, I had a book that actually was like, oh, Capricorn's ruler is Pan for males and females. And I just disagree on that, because Pan is, I mean, if we look at tarot, and see, this is another reason I need to bring out my tarot card. Oh, no, not that deck. I'm going to bring out the Witch's Tarot, because the Witch's Tarot is a deck that I'm pretty much going to use for this reference, because in tarot, the Devil card is in this deck called the Shadow Side, which I really like because it highlights Capricorn a lot. And Capricorns in tarot are represented as the shadow side and or the devil. Now that doesn't mean they're devils by any means. No, they're not. But they are even more darker than I would say like Scorpios actually are. But it's like I like to use this reference because remember, we're also going to talk about Pluto. Scorpios may rule the dark, but they are not of the dark. They pretty much are because they have to be, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they want to be. Capricorn, on the other hand, takes that and says, well, I am the dark and I will be the dark. But that doesn't mean Capricorns are the devil by any circumstance. No, it's just that Capricorns understand earthly desire and earthly pleasures a lot more than we do. But usually they take a practical approach. This to me is when you are practical. This to me is when you're too much in your ego, which is exactly what Capricorns represent. See, look, they're able to marry that emotion with the land. That's why they're the first earth sign in the last part of the zodiac, in that last quadrant. So what's important that for the seasons, they're also cardinal. And so because they usher in the leaving of one year and going into a new season, which is winter. They really usher that in and remind us, even though they're in the middle, that's one of their jobs too. And that's what I love about Capricorns is they have the straight up ability to always like reach out to me when I need something new ushered into my life. They will always come to me when I'm in a new phase, or if I need a new phase, they will be able to come and give me that opportunity for that. And that's probably also because depending on where Capricorn is in your chart, you have to know how to use it. So for example, like me, I have several planets in Capricorn. I have a stellium in Scorpio, and then I have a stellium in Capricorn too, like the main important planets for Capricorn. So like a good example is I have Neptune in Capricorn. I have asteroid in Capricorn. I know I have I've got Lilith in Capricorn. And I am not ashamed of that at all. And also I have, one of my nodes is in Capricorn, but I was like, I gotta look at my chart again, but there's like, I'm missing like 2, but yeah, I have like certain, I think I have Uranus in Capricorn too. So basically, like, and this is the thing, Saturn as a ruler, and working with that devil card, okay? So in Capricorn represents the part of the, I would say that the, Christianity, modern Christianity's views of the devil is, but really in spirituality, there's really, to say that there isn't any darkness, that's a lie. I'm not going to tell you all that, because that's a crock of shit. But there is, but there's no reason to be afraid of it. And I say that in all pure honesty and trust, because I know how to handle it. And you have to learn how to handle it. And the devil card is the one way that teaches us how we are afraid and what we are afraid of, and how to become and basically make it to where it is non-existent, to where it cannot affect you, to where it doesn't take hold, because this is fear. Like there are times where it's okay to have ego and to be like this and to defend yourself. And then there are times where you're living literally in fear. You see how he's in ego and everybody's afraid of him? And Capricorns, like, every Capricorn I've ever met, they're fearless, man. The only time I've ever seen them worried is when it comes to their job, because again, they're an earth sign. If they don't have reign over what's going on in their job, they don't have control over their fears. Because usually most of their fears stem from job, or hold on one second here. Job, I thought there was a question. A job or the house or all of that. And usually Capricorns have it all together. The only times that they don't is really during their Saturnian return, because Saturn is a harsh guy. Okay. So like pretty much Capricorns are the physical embodiment of Saturn. They're harsh sometimes, they're cold, they're bluntly truth, they're super sarcastic, but they are actually really sweet people. And I've been best friends with another Capricorn. Like, I remember I did not call her my best friend because I didn't want to get my hopes up. And the same day I had thought about that, she actually confirmed that herself, without me talking to her about this, that I actually was her best friend. I'll never forget that as long as I live, because she cried. And it's rare to see a Capricorn cry. It is extremely rare to see them cry. But see, even here, she looks very kind of stoic, but here we see the human emotions. And I would say that some people, I don't think they fear Capricorns, because we've learned how to really worship their mindset as like a god, which to me, I'm bothered by that, because materialism, and this is the thing, Capricorns are the materialistic people because of their sign, just like they can't deny their nature, just like the water signs. The water signs are watery, they're emotional. It is what it is. But when you have someone who doesn't know how to, sorry about that, when you have someone who doesn't know how to control that, what happens is you can very much get either somebody's extremely angry, into their ego, cold, malicious, full of malice, wanting to hurt people. It's unfortunate. Like, it really is. It's unfortunate when there are people out there with that kind of mindset, or my favorite, they worship the hell out of money. And I have a problem with that too, because Saturn, and this is the most thing that I've seen with Capricorns, especially within this last year, is that for the ones who have really worshipped money, it's been a huge part of their identity, Saturn really stripped that away, because that's what he does. Saturn by himself naturally just takes that away. He'll set you up in shop 6 months before he comes in, and then just like he did with the last sign, and then when he's in your sign, you feel this heaviness. You feel it. You're tired a lot more. You're sleepy. You're bothered. You feel like you can't move. You feel like everything is just right here at your throat all the time. And if it's not that, you're having issues in your job. And he's really cleaning out. Honestly, he's cleaning out. It's not just about cleaning out things that don't work for you, like with Pluto. This is talking about, see, that's what Pluto does. No. He says, okay, Pluto said this doesn't work for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and Pluto destroyed this, but I'm going to destroy everything else that you attach with it. And that's what makes Capricorns, and I would even dare say Saturn himself, very dangerous as as a planet that if you don't, and also he's the sign of karma. Capricorns are the sign of karma because he rules karma. He decides, okay, your karma bank, like I always talk about this conception of karma so people can understand, is in like a karma bank, right? Right? Oh, that's so strange. I didn't even realize like they have kind of the same look on the cards, like with the like hands and like the general direction, the way Saturn, and again, because he's supposed to represent Saturn, makes sense. But like, yeah, I just noticed that. I was like, oh, that's crazy. But as some people say in the spiritual community, there is no such thing as an accident. But I mean, I have some tarot cards that, man, there's like the one card in this deck for sure. Like I always tell people, like when the devil card pops up, like he looks like such a fiend. And I'm not gonna pull it out because it'll probably scare the crap out of you guys. So I'd rather not do that to y'all. But yeah, I did just kind of want to let you know what's going on. So hold on a second here because I'm trying to get these cards lined up because I'm gonna start talking about Saturn as he transits into Aquarius, like what's happening, because we got the moon in Sagittarius coming on, and I need to put this here too. Not looking totally at Aquarius just yet. He's still hiding, but that's okay. So yeah, whenever I hold the card like this, whenever I do readings, that's telling me you're balanced. That's telling me you're keeping Saturn in check, and also you're keeping your light side in check. Because sometimes when we have the devil card like this is huge talks of delusion. You're deluding yourself. You're saying, oh, I'll never go back to that behavior. Oh, I'll never go to a person like that again. Never say never, y'all. Ever. Never, ever say never. Because sure enough, there will be that devil coming back to you in a different, and maybe a different character, maybe a different suit, it may be a different, style. It may be something, but he will always be there. Like if you ever saw The Devil's Advocate, like that's kind of what that, when you delude yourself with that card, what that reminds me of. Because even though like Keanu Reeves has circumvented what was going to happen to him and his wife, at the end of the film, Al Pacino takes on a new disguise, and then sure enough, he tricks Keanu Reeves again. So I always feel like at the end of that ending, did he just like go with the time loop and then like repeat everything again in the future only to have to destroy it all? Like, or was that just wiped completely? And then, all of those things still happened. I'm not sure. I'd have to watch the movie again. But it's like, that movie even creeps me out, though, y'all. I'm not going to lie. But, like, I've only seen it, like, twice? But that's a perfect analogy of, like, what happens when you delude yourself, even if you're doing it for good reasons. It's kind of like, at that point when you do that, you're saying, it's like you're ignoring what just happened. You're ignoring this person. Another deck that I have that I think will kind of help bring this all together is, okay, I'm going to use the Game of Thrones one, because the person that they actually have as the embodiment of the devil, I think was a perfect pick. Honestly, a perfect selection. Give me a second here, because I think this is really going to bring it home for those of you who are kind of still not sure of what I'm talking about. I just get this intuitive feeling like it's not clicking. So hang on a second here. Okay. Here we are again. Those of you who've seen Game of Thrones, this is Ramsay Bolton, okay? He was the devil for sure in that series from season 3 all the way to season 6, okay? So, again, we have these representations of what we think Saturn is, what we think the idea of all of this ever-encompassing badness is, when really it's a sign that doesn't mean Capricorns are actually really bad. They're not. The problem is we're associating materialism, and this is why tarot has this card in its decks, to remind us that Capricorns can be really great when it comes to money, but when it comes anything outside of that, they have a difficulty connecting. Even though they're an earth sign, you would think that they won't, but they usually end up putting money over personal relationships. Usually. Or they have a relationship that is geared towards money and wealth and love, especially in love. I know 2 earth signs who are together. One is a Capricorn, one is a Virgo, and the Capricorn, I love her. She's so funny. She was like, oh, I told him to do this like several weeks ago and he procrastinated. And then I was like, but he's a Virgo. It's kind of what they do. Like, they don't plan like you and me. Like, I had to tell her, like, they don't plan. They go fly at the seat of the pants. And I remember this happened with the issue of her getting some kind of insurance. And she was wanting me to look over the plan. And then I was like, she had me look over these plans, and then I thought, well, wait a minute, don't you already have that? And she goes, I did, but so-and-so did not show me the plan and then sign me on because he did it too late. And I was like, oh, I know that made her mad, because it's also a form of control. Like, Capricorns are great, I think, honestly, when they have the control, because they know exactly what they would do with it. I will give them that. That's where they become balanced, because they know, like, they love to tinker with that kind of control. They love to say, oh, like in that instance, yeah, she needed the control on that, because because at the same time she was looking into getting her own plan, because she is the kind of person that, you know, she gets sick a little bit more frequently, and I think it had to do with allergies or something, but like, yeah, it was like something like that. Like, it wasn't like she just got sick all the time just because. It was because where she was living had to do with allergies. And so she wanted me to, because she called on me because I know how to read insurance plans, because I used to work as an insurance person. So the claims, so for the plan and stuff. So she's telling me like how many visits there are. And it's not like a regular plan. It's one of those plans that it was like the very, very bottom of the barrel. And I was just like, okay, what's your deductible? I'm asking her all of these earth sign questions with the insurance. What's your deductible? How much do you have to pay out? How many visits do you have? Blah, 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 blah. And because she's asking me for the criteria of if it's a good fit for her. And she goes with, oh, you know what? I think I am going to go with this plan, even though you told me not to, or you kind of advised me that maybe this isn't good for me. But that's okay. I'm just going to go forward with it and give it a try. I was like, all right, no problem. Like, not a problem. Thanks for calling. And, sure enough, I think it was like 3 months later, she went and it didn't cover anything. And I was like, yeah, because at that point I was like, yeah, if it didn't cover anything, that means it's barely going to cover any of the doctor's visits, right? So I had to tell her that later on, because we found that out. So, yeah, in that instance, oh my God, she was so mad. Like, I can't get over how so mad she was, because she kept saying, if I had control over this, like, I would not have picked this. Why? And she kept saying that. And so that's where Capricorns, like, when they get mad, they usually get mad because it has to deal with the control. But like I said, Capricorns can be really good with control in those instances when it comes to like the 3D kind of like housing, how they want the house to be at, what the price point is house inspections. Oh man, anything with house inspections, I can see Capricorns doing really good in as well, very successfully. And so this is where, again, because Saturn is in Capricorn, it does strengthen them a lot in those areas of the 3D. The only problem is, and this is where Capricorns I've seen most of them have a weakness, especially like right now. Like I think I told y'all on Tuesday, the last video I did, that I met someone that I was thinking of dating, and I looked at his chart. He had stellium and Capricorn, and he had Capricorn in the 5th, and he had Venus in Capricorn, and I was like, oh God. It wasn't just his sun. It was like he had like 7 placements, and I was like, oh, y'all, like, no. Because at that point, like, I'm not saying Capricorns are weak by any means. No. They're never weak. But like that one, with me dating him while he was going through that Saturnian return, it could have never worked, because he still would have. And what it sounded like when I talked to him is he was still holding on to those control issues that Saturn at that point in time, whatever was left over that he hadn't already worked out for 2.5 years, he was still working out on that guy. And I was like, yeah, it's not going to work between us right now, because like he's got that going for him. My Venus sign is more loving than that. I don't do cold energy already. So the fact that like Saturn is making him readjust his 5th house and the principles of that, oh no. Like I remember being like, no, he'd be better off as my friend than he would my actual potential partner, because at that point, like, I don't think I could help him pick up the pieces. And that's something that through a Saturnian return, you really need somebody or someone who is going to be there. And I'm talking about in the sun sign. Like in the sun sign for sure. But like in instances like that where he had like 9 things in Capricorn, I was like, oh yeah, he would need somebody, and I'm not in a place to give that to him, which was unfortunate. But he's a really great guy. And I told him, like, you're a really great guy. But then it was like, he was like, yeah, I was thinking about dating. And then sure enough, he wanted to go from long-term dating. He flipped to short-term, which I'm like, I told him I didn't want. So it's like, okay, you're not listening. Okay. And your ruler is like going to work this out in you. I'm not going to be around. I don't have the patience. And so like, that's the thing about Capricorns is Capricorns have patience, whereas some water signs like me just straight up don't. And the reason I don't have patience for that is because I've already been through it, and I'm not around I'm not one to play games. And sometimes Capricorns can. And I love that about them, because it's funny just when it doesn't happen to like you as the person they're playing the game on. But it's funny to watch. Sometimes it's fun to engage. My Capricorn friend and I used to play pranks on this girl who lived like 4 floors below us. She, for first 3 months of college, we were living in a student living apartment, and this Capricorn and I were living together. And I remember like we had this girl who lived 4 floors beneath us, and it was like 9 o'clock at night, and she was getting drunk and loud and like really obnoxious and yelling, and the whole complex could hear her. So my Capricorn friend, to teach her a lesson, because that's what Capricorns do, they teach people lessons, and that's what Saturn does. Saturn is a great teacher of lessons, right? So what this Capricorn devised a plan. She actually, I'll never forget this as long as I live. We had porches that were like one underneath the other with wood slats. So she goes outside, she turns our light off, she unscrews the bulb, makes it go dark for a while. Because at that point, it had been like 7 o'clock at night. And she was like, dude, if this goes on till 9, I'm done. She's been doing this for like 5 days for the last 3 consecutive months. Are you in? And I was like, well, I can't. I mean, like, how, when you say, are we in on this prank? Like, what are we doing? Because I'm not doing anything that's going to, get me in trouble. She was like, no, nothing like that. I was like, all right, what's the prank? So she came up with this ingenious plan. I let her come up with the plan, because she and I planned it together, but like we were in cahoots, I'll be honest. But she had a much better reign of idea of where she wanted this prank to go. So I'll never forget, she does this prank. It's cold too, and it's starting to get chilly out because it's cold. This girl is screaming at the top of her lungs on the freaking balcony on the first floor, and we're on the fourth, and everybody and their brother can hear her on a Wednesday night. We all still have classes from Thursday to Friday in college. And so my Capricorn was like, I just want to, I want this, I want to do that, I just don't know how. And then I was like, okay, so basically, like, we took water in a pot. We filled a huge, one of those big boiling boiling water pots. And we filled it all the way up to the top with water. Okay. And so we didn't just fill it up with any kind of water. We filled it with water that was from the tap that was cold. And then we put ice in it. I can't believe I'm telling all this. But like, this is when I was younger. Okay. I wasn't even 20. I was 19. Yeah, I had just turned 8. I was going to turn 19. And so the one time, like, we would do pranks around the house, like, all the time, like that too, before we had to go do, our spiritual stuff, and work on us and become actual adults. But I'll never forget, like, we did this, we filled the pot up, we opened up our balcony door, and it was quiet, and we didn't turn the light on because she had even gone to the length of unscrewing the light from the thing. So she did that, made it really dark. We made it really dark throughout the whole apartment. And then she said, okay. And so I'll never forget, I opened up the door. And as we're opening up the door, we put the pot outside first and tried to give her like a couple more minutes to see if she'd be quiet. She didn't. So then we came back in, but we still had the door open and everything was off. And she basically put the pot next to me and then like dumped it to where it was on its side. So basically all this cold water went straight down the slats of the, and she did it like right where she was sitting like above her 4 levels up. I'm sorry. She really did. Like, she planned it like that. So she did that, and then she put it like all the way up, with the pot, and then just with the slats, the water went, because by this time the ice had melted, so the water was very cold. So we hear from 4 floors this girl yelling at the top of her lungs, and then we see the water just drip straight down. And then we hear, oh my God, it's cold. Oh. Like, you know what though? That girl never did that again after 7:00 on a weeknight, or a weekend for that matter. So yeah, Capricorn and planning and doing pranks. That's one of my favorite pranks that I think I did back in college, was that one. I did a couple of other pranks too. Like, we pranked my RA my first year, but like, it wasn't anything bad. We just taped the door with some paper and then colored on it. His dorm room. It's a Sagittarian thing, okay? Because my sun shares like both Scorpio and Sag. I like to do pranks, like fun pranks like that. Not like mean pranks, like at sleepovers. I hated those. But okay, that last one though, with the girl in the water, that one wasn't really nice. But like, she had 3 months. The office kept telling her to be quiet. And so the Capricorn took it into her own hands. And that's the thing about the Capricorns. I know this energy seems like really dark, but they can be so funny and so full of light though. And that's where I'm like, they're so misjudged. But Saturn, on the other hand, and they can also come off as unfeeling. And that's the thing about Saturn, is he just comes off that way because he has a serious job to do. It's not just about being like serious, as in having a job to do. It's about like what his job entails. So his job basically, and I'm going to put it like this. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to pull another tarot card, because I'm going to now explain what from Libra to, Saturn, so you guys can understand the bigger picture, what these signs control. Because it'll make the abstract more conceptual. So hold on a second here. No. Okay. Is it here? Here it is. Okay. Lady Justice. So for those of you who don't know, Libra, and from Libra basically all the way to Capricorn, that's the middle of the zodiac, right? Middle to the end. And it's important we understand the roles of that, because in the Saturnian return in Capricorn, Capricorns have had about, I would say, off and on, the hardest last 2 years of their lives almost. It'll be 2 years, and like I said, the end of this year. And Saturn is the guy, like I said, he controls the karma bank. So I always tell people before Saturn return, no matter the Saturn return, if you know you did somebody wrong, you apologize and you make amends and you do it genuinely. Because if you try to do it from a place of disingenuous like energy, Saturn's going to know. Saturn will know, and you will have karma 10 times way worse. And then he really will treat you like this because he knows what you're up to, because you were in that embodiment of that energy as well. So it's like in that moment when you were being disingenuous. Saturn's not a sign to play around with, let me tell you. As a planetary energy, he just, no. I don't. He's serious because he's serious. He has a serious job to do. So hold on a second here, because I want to rearrange the cards that I'm putting on the table so you guys can understand where exactly these rulers come from. Like, I know I already told you how they're family, but I'm talking about coming from on like a standpoint of logic, why they act and behave certain ways. Okay. And I'm going to use the tarot cards to like illuminate on this. I'm going to use this so you guys understand. No, I don't like that. I'm going to use this instead. I feel like this has a better just energy to it. So let me get, I need Temperance. Okay. I want this one. Temperance cards. I have one that's like, it's a watercolor deck, but I'm like, you know what? I don't think that one, like, it's pretty, but I don't think y'all could really see the imagery like with the traditional Rider-Waite. So like, hold on a second here. I really didn't think I was going to be dipping into my tarot decks today, y'all, but I guess I did. Okay, there's Justice again. I need Temperance. Here we go. Okay. And I'm actually going to do this too, you know, just so we understand, everybody knows where the energies are coming from, where the mindsets are coming from. We're going to use that one, and we're going to use this one to explain Aquarian. Hold on, guys. Sorry, I really want to make sure we're clear on like where this is all truly coming from on a consciousness mindset, because once I start talking about like retrograde, the Pluto retrograde, you're going to understand the abstract of what I just talked about with Saturn, because Saturn and Pluto are currently in cahoots right now, just like when I was in cahoots with my friend in that prank, except now the energies that rule both of us are in cahoots, not for pranking. They're serious business, man. Okay. So, this is the card of Libra, right? Libra says, I am the goddess of Venus, fairness, and justice. I know how to take a clear, relaxed approach, and I've seen everything you as a soul have done to someone, be it good and bad, and over the last, let's say, 6 months. And for example, and basically, you've been misbehaving. And so I tell you what your punishment will be. I get to say you will be punished, And I get to say, if you have been good, you are rewarded. Okay. So then it's like an assembly line that I have here. Okay. Because that's Libra. That's Libra. Sorry, guys. I wish I had a better way to set up this camera right now, but unfortunately I don't. So I have to really work with what I have and have everything spread out, which isn't really my best way to work, but unfortunately this is how I have to work. So then everything goes to Scorpio. And Scorpio says, okay, Libra said that you're the person that's going to be punished that's coming in front of me, right? So Pluto and Mars both rule Scorpio, right? So they say what Pluto says goes, and then he sends this inaction over to that person, especially if it's a punishment, because Scorpio has the job of change. They have to get people to change. That's why they're fixed and why they're ruled by two signs, one of action and one of water and thought. Okay? And why they are so strong as a water sign. So then Scorpio passes the buck over to Sag. Sag says, I'm the truth seeker in this, and I'm going to make sure that what Scorpio and Libra say is accurate before I go ahead and sign off. Think of them as like a principle or a order where they sign off and check all the orders. That's exactly what happens when either one of these signs says good karma, bad karma, or good punishment, good reward. Here's your reward. Sag pretty much checks the boxes off to make sure it's all right. And if they feel like something needs to be added, then this energy adds to it. If they feel like something needs to be taken away, they do that because they're ruled over by the divine energy, and they are the sign of transcendence. Okay? So this is why it's important you understand the roles that tarot and astrology play when it comes to the Saturnian return in the sun sign, or no matter where it is in the chart. So we then get to Capricorn. Capricorn takes everything that both Libra did with the punishment, or the punishment that Scorpio says is law, the lookover that Jupiter gives the okay to as the punishment, and then Saturn pretty much literally physically on the 3D plane dishes that out. But it also works the same way with rewards as well. So the reason I talk more about the punishment actually happening during a Saturnian return is because it's like he's a purifier of the soul, basically. And this is because most people don't realize that they have karma. Some people, this is the thing. Some people do things and they know they do them intentionally, but sometimes they have good reasons for it. And so, Saturn in that instance will only work off the parts that you did with bad intentions, or that was a bad deed. But if you had a good intention, he won't punish you for that. He'll just say, oh, well, that was like a bad, he's like the policer of the zodiac, really. He punishes people he's like a cop, okay? He's like the cop of the zodiac, and he says, oh, you were speeding, I have to give you a ticket, right? Or, sometimes he could be the cop that doesn't give you a ticket, but he'll be like, look, you're speeding. I still had to pull you over and I had to talk to you. But I understand you had to go to the bathroom. Just keep it under this much and, don't do it again. Okay? So that's the best way I could describe how Saturn works, because that is how he works. He works off the laws of karma. And so that's why Saturn in Capricorn is so powerful right now. And so we're almost hitting an hour. And so, yeah, I kind of had a feeling I was going to have to do the talk on Pluto separately, just I knew I was going to go over with Saturn and Capricorn, because it's such an abstract concept. But then it's like you start talking about the material things, then it makes sense. But also, I have to talk about where Saturn you know, and that's the thing about the laws of karma. Saturn gets you on your material front when he enacts your karma. That's the hard part. That's the part that really hits home for everybody, because it's like with Scorpio. Scorpio is the sign that, and this is why Scorpio and Capricorn get along so well. Because Scorpio's like, I'm change. I'm giving you the opportunity to change. You don't want to. Right? So then Saturn says, okay, Scorpio gave you this chance. You didn't want to change. You keep wanting to disillude yourself. Now I got to be the big baddie. That's kind of pretty much how they work together. And then it's like, well, you know, the divine says that it's okay. Now that doesn't mean that we go ahead and act like that towards people. No, it depends. It honestly depends on your ego, where you're coming from as well, because there are instances, like I said, where this represents ego and you are justified in acting so. When you are balanced and you realize when you're acting in ego and you know how to tone it back to make a point, you're coming from this space. But when you're living in ego and you're living off of, you're comparing people to the money they make, you're comparing people to the housing you live in versus them. And it's not just comparing, it makes you feel better than where they are. That is where the intentions that I'm talking about, that mindset, that's why Saturn has to come in and kind of basically make you grow up and realize that that's immature and not responsible on a social consciousness front. I know, it was a lot to take in. But it's true, because that's the only way at that point, once he removes those things that you have, these negative attachments and terrible behaviors that they come from, once he removes those things out, he brings almost this weird, strange sense of not just justice, but like humility. Like I know someone right now who they're having a Saturn return at the end of their chart, and like the person's learning, but like they ain't learning a lot, and their 5th house is in Aquarius, and I'm just like, oh, and they're an air sign ruled by Venus, and I'm just like, oh man, like your next 2 years are going to be so hard. Like you're going to be literally like rebroken. You're going to be rebroken and then rebuilt by Saturn. Good luck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, man, that's rough. And this is where okay, this is where the age of Aquarius really comes in again, because Aquarius comes after Capricorn as the star card in tarot to bring hope, to bring light, to bring blessings to the situation that is now past, that the darkness has now passed and the dark has turned to light. That's the whole point of a Saturn return. Saturn is supposed to be the dark night of what they say in the spiritual community, the dark night of the soul. It very much is. And he does it because he's teaching you. He's a teacher. He's a teacher that is teaching you the darkest parts of yourself that literally have to be like taken out of you with circumstances that like take you out in the process on the 3D front. So for example, housing, jobs, money, health, your car. Oh God, I remember like during my Saturn return with Sag that last year, I didn't think I was untouchable. I was just like, oh, okay, well, like now my everyday is going to be affected. Okay, that's all right. And I remember at the time, Saturn like took my prized possession of my baby, my car, and sent a hailstorm my way. And now my car is a total trash. It's totaled. It's been totaled for the last 3 years. That was the start to my 2016. That was a great start. And it was around March too when that happened. And it was springtime. And I mean, I'll be honest though, most of my neighbors had way more damage than my car. But I remember everybody couldn't understand why my car got totaled out. Like my neighbors had holes of the size of golf balls and softballs going through their glass. And all I had was a cracked windshield from the inside, from the air pressure, from when the hail hit. But the outside was all dented. And ever since then, like the wiring on my car has been really weird. Since then, because I think just the way the hail came, it like pummeled everybody. But yeah, Yeah, Saturn took my prized possession, my car, my baby, and like ruined it. Like it looks like moon craters on my car. And I have that car. I've had it since 2009. And so when that happened, I was devastated. But like I was still relieved. I was like, okay, well, that's part of the Saturn turn. And, you know, like it just means like eventually when I get a new car, like I'll let that go and then I'll get a new one and I'll cherish it just as much. But, you know, maybe not put, you know, it humbled me in a way to realize like I was super appreciative already for my car. So the fact that I was already coming from an appreciative space made me even more appreciative for it when it was broken. But I was very upset that it was broken. So I was like, okay. But, you know, I was like, but the laws of karma say you got to let go to bring something new in. So eventually when I do get a new car, I'll be so happy. And I will be getting a garage at my next apartment. So that doesn't happen. So, yeah. Because the insurance wouldn't cover it because it was like over a certain limit. Yeah, it's complicated, guys. But it was like, I just wanted to show y'all like kind of how Saturn is, what he's like, what he tries to teach you, you know, what he does. And also like he really stifles your movement. He makes you feel like you cannot go anywhere. Like you're boxed into every corner and you're stuck with yourself to think. He very much is kind of like I said, he's the cop of the zodiac, right? So like because he's the cop of the zodiac, what he does is he polices you and then puts you in like the holding cell for 2 years. Your life is literally put on hold for 2 years. And that sucks. And some people are like, are there ways to mitigate it? And honestly, the only way I have found for it to be mitigated, and he's teaching you about control. So like if you learn to come from a space of where you're being controlling, where you're being overtly dominant, where you're worshiping money over and material possessions over the people in your lives and those relationships, kind of like, you know, it's like Scrooge, right? You know, like from Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol. Let's look at Scrooge as like that typical person who Saturn has to enact, you know, epic karma on, right? But it was circumvented because his spirit guides, Jacob Marley, and it was Jacob and someone else, Marley, the brothers that were his friends that had passed on, intervened and said, look, you can circumvent this fate if you change. That's pretty much like how Scorpio and Pluto work. Sorry, Scorpio and Capricorn work. And so this kind of is going to segue into like our talk on Pluto and Pluto retrograde. And funny enough, Pluto is retrograde in Capricorn. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that in depth on, let me see here, the next day we come on because I need to look. Okay, so we'll be on tomorrow, 2 to 4. But again, if you want us to go ahead and submit an order for your reading, you definitely can. I will be here until looking at the orders page till about 8 o'clock. You can still submit one at 5. I won't be online, but I'll be back on at 6. Other than that, on the Square app. So again, you go to Square, you go to the link I shared in the box. You can definitely get a reading from me. It'll be 10 minutes, but you know what? I give lots of information a lot quicker. Usually when I have to talk about spiritual concepts, I have to go like really far in to give you guys what you need. But tarot readings, I'm too quick for those. So yeah, go ahead and get your 10-minute reading. Go ahead and book it now. And other than that, I will talk to you guys later. Love you. Bye.